In today's video, we're going to be answering all your questions, including what my next watch purchase is going to be. And no, before you say anything, it's not what you think. Then we're going to be talking about whether I'm going to sell my Seamaster. I know I've been talking about that for a while. And finally, we're going to be talking about the state of the luxury watch industry. All of this and so much more is going to be covered in this video, all from the beautiful Highlands of Scotland. Okay guys, welcome back to the Chisholm Hunter channel. My name is Harrison, as always, and before I even start, right, I've just arrived in Gleneative. It was meant to be horrible weather today, and it's turned out like this. How stunning is that? It's like an actual mirror between the lake and the mountains. Wow. Oh, okay guys, I've tried to keep the lens as wide as possible here so that you can kind of enjoy some of the beauty of Scotland with me while we're doing this little short clip. But honestly, it never ceases to amaze me how stunning my home is. All right, let's get cracking because we have so many questions to get through. So, Nijam_Jones says, what has been your favorite Hollywood watch? I think my favorite Hollywood watch has to be the Hamilton Khaki Field Murph. I think the significance of that watch, it can't be overstated. Literally, whenever you think of a movie watch, you think of that watch because it wasn't just a watch that was used in the movie, it was a watch that was essential to the plot and the storyline of the movie. It was actually weaved into the story. So I think that is the most historically significant Hollywood watch. So next up we've got ZWX_, and he says, when will you be doing a state of the collection video? Much looking forward to it, love from SG. So I actually did one quite recently. I did a collection video called What's in My Watch Box, where I essentially just went through everything that was in the watch box. And I don't want to bore you guys with those kind of videos, so I'll probably post one when there is a significant change. I need to sell a couple of my watches and I want to get a couple new ones. So when there's a significant change, I'll let you know. ASDHSM says, I've been hesitating between the Seamaster 300 white or black or Aquaterra blue. So listen, for me, I'm totally biased because I have the King on, but I suppose it really depends on what you're going to be using it for. If it is more of a travel-centric watch that you will be battering and bruising, I wouldn't go for the Aquaterra. If it's more of an outdoorsy piece, then I do think the Seamaster is more well-suited. However, if you aren't going to be taking it out and about and battering it, then maybe the Aquaterra is for you. Femish Nad Akandi, please apologize for my pronunciation here, guys. This is insane. First watch from Rolex, Explorer or Day Date? Personally speaking, I would go for an Explorer. I think it's just that little bit more versatile, but I actually don't have any Rolexes in my collection, so I don't have personal experience with it, so I couldn't say. Roberto_Del says, do you have a Grail dream watch? Yes, I do. I actually have a couple, but I think one of the ones that I keep mentioning that I absolutely love has to be the Vacheron Constantin Overseas Everest Edition. Watches with Abdullah says, what's your one and done ultimate exit watch that you'll never sell? Unlimited budget. That's a good question. I suppose if I was being money centric and I wasn't in the watch industry, I'd say the most expensive watch there is just so I could buy and sell it, but that's not really the question. I suppose, honestly, I think it would have to be the Overseas Everest Edition. I don't know why. I've interviewed Corey before on my podcast, the Instamind podcast, and it was a collaboration between Corey Richards and also Vacheron to create this watch. And the fact that he's a photographer, I'm a photographer, I was inspired by him, and it all relates to my life, and I love that watch. Cabreda says, please convince me that the thickness of the Blancpain Pro opaline dial is not too much. I have the exact same predicament at the moment. And the reason being is that Tudor actually just released the Tudor Ranger. And the Ranger is 11mm thick if you want the 36mm. And if you get the 39mm, it's 12mm thick. Whereas the Blancpain Pro opaline dial's 14.7mm thick. So nerdy that I can remember that off the top of my head. But it's a huge difference, right? And I do think that when you travel a lot and when you do tons of outdoorsy stuff in photography, you need to kind of take that into consideration. And yeah, it's for sure something that I would like Tudor to just slim it down just a touch, maybe to 13 or 12. I think that'd be perfect. But at the moment, I'm gonna answer this question later on about my next watch, but I'm in two minds. Next up from Nick Hill Senior, what do you think of Grand Seiko? Don't hear you talk about it much. I talk about Grand Seiko all the time. I really like Grand Seiko. I think that they need to hone in on their sports watches. I think that kind of sports GMT watch that they have is just a little bit too much for me personally. But I do love Grand Seiko. I love their dials, I love their detail, I love the movements, the spring drive movements, their innovation. I think I talk about Grand Seiko. Do I not talk about Grand Seiko? I think I talk about Grand Seiko. Doing time Scotland's, apart from the overseas, what is your favorite Vacheron Constantin model? Ooh, okay. I've got this. I know this. It would have to be an American 1921. And by the way, as I'm talking to you right now, a bird just landed right behind you and just kind of flew off. But yeah, it'd have to be an American 1921. I think that's so unique and kind of weird. Obviously it was for driving, and hence why the dial, the kind of face is kind of flipped, the crown's on a weird side. But I like the history of it, and I think it has a good story behind it, a good amount of history behind it. And also it's just that little bit weird, and I like stuff that's weird. Okay, so this is a really interesting one actually. Paolo Percinelli. Sorry guys, I'm so sorry. Has your Grail watch when first starting collecting different from your current Grail watch? Yes. Yes, I'd say it is. And I think everyone goes through this natural evolution of figuring out actually what they really want and what they really kind of desire and what speaks to them personally. I think from an outsider looking into the watch industry like 10 years ago, it was a Rolex Daytona. I saw my dad wearing a Rolex Daytona white dial, stainless steel bezel, and I wanted that watch. That was my ultimate watch. I've talked about this before. And then when I got into the industry and started educating myself on all the watches and what makes them special, it definitely changed. It's changed a bunch of times actually. But yeah, at the moment it's still Vacheron for me. But I think this kind of speaks to a wider discussion. I think that when people are first getting into the luxury watch industry, typically it's Patek Philippe or Rolex, and that's it. There's no negotiating, there's no talking them out of it. But then they start dipping their toe in the water, and before you know it, they're fully submerged. And they're looking at tons of cool brands, A. Lange & Söhne being one of them. Shark Time Watches says, how do you balance your passion of photography and horology? That's a great question. I think I merge them, to be honest. I mean, I'm out here with you guys talking about watches, but I'm also doing photography, drone videography, and other stuff. So yeah, I spliced them together, I merged them. And that was always the plan when I first started the channel. The plan was always to bring watches to life in the outdoors and use my passion for photography and videography to show these watches in a different light. Because I think far too many people just film the watches in the studio and that's it. And that's all they do. And it's, to me personally, it gets a bit repetitive, it gets a bit mundane, and also you don't actually know what the watch looks like because it's perfect lighting, which you never have in day-to-day life. So to answer your question in short, I kind of spliced them. Gavin Harper says, thoughts on Christopher Ward? I love Christopher Ward. I think they're doing some really incredible stuff. Apart from that C21 jump hour, I think that's really weird, if I'm perfectly honest. Cool innovation, but just kind of strange. I feel like watches need to have a degree of story behind them, right? I feel like they need to have a degree of history, a degree of something that speaks to you personally. And I feel like Christopher Ward, because they're releasing so many watches, they're kind of missing that. I don't want to say it's soulless because I love Christopher Ward as a brand, but I think because they're releasing so many watches, to me, it's becoming a little bit like that. I mean, that C21 jump hour, yeah, it's cool, but what does it represent? What does it stand for? What's the history behind it? None of that was answered. It was just this cool piece. And I don't doubt that they're a brilliant brand, but to me, they're lacking something. It's not converting me. Best budget-friendly watch, I would go with Seiko, Hamilton, Christopher Ward. I suppose it depends what you mean by budget-friendly. Some people's budget are obviously higher or lower than others. Casio is another great one. Yeah, there's tons of brands out there that are really brilliant in terms of affordability and also longevity. All right, we're gonna answer a couple more questions and then we're gonna go and move somewhere a little bit different to explore a little bit more. of Scotland. AWAC_75 says favorite microbrands. So one of my favorite microbrands at the moment, and it's one that I kind of took a deep dive in. I did a video on the 8 best microbrands you haven't heard of, where I just nerded out over stuff that I'd learned over the last month. And one of them that really stood out to me was Anordain. Now, Anordain are actually based in Scotland, so it speaks to me personally, but the dial detail and the level of precision when it comes to their dials specifically is absolutely insane. Like, they layer the paint up and then they burn stuff to solidify it, and then they change textures, and I won't go into detail because it will bore you, but it's honestly wild. If you have the chance, definitely have a look at Anordain. They're awesome. So It's Joe Pappy has a couple of questions and also statements, so I'm just gonna whiz through them. At this point, just hire me. Well, thank you very much. That's appreciated that you'd want to work alongside me, so thank you. Secondly, he goes, subscriber-only watch photography competition. I suppose that will be a video idea. Probably a good idea. A whole video on videography, photography, lenses, cameras, and gimbals. That's something that I've been considering, guys, on this channel. And I don't know if it's something that you guys would want to see. Like, would you be interested in how I film these kind of things, or are you just interested in the watches? If you're just interested in the watches, then that's fine. I can maybe make another channel separate, a photography or videography channel. But I have been playing with the idea of kind of linking the two together. I'm talking about lenses, photography, when it comes to watches. You know, why I use a wide lens when I'm out in environments like this, obviously to show more of the environment, but if I'm filming a watch, I'll use a tighter lens. All those kind of like small details. So if you guys want to see that, or want me to make videos on that kind of camera stuff, then just let me know. Okay, let's get up, go a little bit of a drive, and see what else we can see. You know, when I'm filming videos like this, sometimes I need to stop and remind myself how bloody lucky I am to be in these kind of environments. And a lot of that is because of you guys, because of the support that you give me on this channel. So before we go any further, I just want to say, and I don't want to get sappy about it, but I want to say thank you guys so much. I mean, I don't think you guys understand how much it means, and I don't know where I'd be if I wasn't doing this. So yeah, thank you. All right, and this is where you see the absolute mess of the car at the moment. I was flying the drone a little bit earlier, and we got some really cool shots kind of through the clouds and the low mist. It was super, super sick. But let's move position, and yeah, let's get chatting. Let's get more questions done. It's funny, I was trying to position the tripod and trying to like figure out what mountains to get in the background, and then I just decided there's no point, because literally everywhere you look, just behind me here, you've got mountains, behind me here, mountains, behind me here, mountains. It's like I could just point the camera and shoot anywhere and it'd be a banger. But I think this is as good a place as any to have a little chat. All right, so next up we've got Joe Kui Ka, and he says, still happy with the Omega Seamaster 300 meters. How does it wear? I'm still very happy with the Seamaster 300 meters. I've actually got it on at the moment, but I'm holding the camera with that wrist. It wears brilliantly. I think it wears a lot better on a rubber strap. I've tried the NATO, I've tried the bracelet, tried the rubber. The NATO lifts it too far off the wrist because it goes underneath it, so it makes it a bit thicker. So I'm not too keen on that. I think the rubber is what really makes this watch come into its prime, if you will. But yeah, I absolutely love it. It will be quite interesting though to see what Omega do with the Seamaster now that they've updated their Planet Ocean. So the Planet Ocean now doesn't have that helium escape valve. So I'm wondering, and I'm actually wondering what you guys are wondering about this, do you think that Omega are going to take the helium escape valve away from the Seamaster, or do you think they'll keep it? All right, so we've got Scratch Crown Watches says, what is your favorite complication? Mine has to be the GMT function. I think in terms of complications, I'm very much an advocate of getting use out of the watch, right? So whatever you buy the watch for, you should use it for those features that are on it, right? And I think that so many people buy humongous complications that they never use. And I think if I were to really strip it down and say, what do I use and what do I need? It would be a date window, probably, and a GMT function. So to choose one of them, GMT functionality. It just kind of suits my lifestyle. And I think when you're choosing a watch, choosing a complication, you need to think of that. Next up, we've got Luke Maury 94, and he says, you've said you want to do a half marathon. When and where do you think it will be? And will you just wear the Garmin or double wrist it to hold the memory with the watch? I love it that you guys are holding me accountable to something that I've said. Honestly, I do, because it makes me more motivated to actually go and do it. I think I'd do it in Scotland for sure. A lot of my friends have done marathons or half marathons in Scotland. My brother actually did one quite recently. And I think I'd just wear the Garmin, to be honest. I think in my situation, tell me to climb up a mountain, I'm fine, I can do it, I'm fit. Tell me to run a marathon or a half, I'd probably struggle. So I need all the help I can get. So I'd shed the weight of my Seamaster and definitely just keep it with a Garmin. Okay, so next up we have Dwee Lee Global. And he says, what watch have you photographed that plays best with the light, or plays with the light best? Changes with the background or lighting and still looks great? That's a great question, and it's one that I've got a definite answer for. It has to be the Shun Bun from Grand Seiko. In some lights it looks pink, in some lights it looks white, in other lights it kind of shifts and changes textures with whatever's around it. And we were actually in Iceland with the Shun Bun, and I have to say it's one of the most beautiful dials I've ever seen in my life. And that's saying a lot, because normally I'd be totally biased and say that the Seamaster is the most beautiful dial that I've ever seen in my life. But for that question, in terms of photography, it has to be the Shun Bun. No matter how many times I shoot it, it just looks different. Nidjama Jones says, what keeps you motivated and enjoying photography? I think what keeps me motivated is the never-ending plethora of opportunity that there is. I think no matter where you go, no matter how many times you go there, there's always going to be a different setting, a different scene, a different emotion to capture. And I think that that keeps me going. I've come to Glencoe, where we are at the moment. We're actually just beside Glencoe in Gleneative, but I've come here so many different times, and I've never had this kind of weather. So no matter how many times you come back to a place, it's always different. And I think, just speaking on a personal level here, I've got major ADHD. I was dyslexic, ADHD, got diagnosed when I was quite young, and I think I attached my dopamine receptors in my brain around new images and creating new things. And because there's a never-ending amount of photos that you can capture, that just plays really well with my kind of personality. I'm almost like, I feel kind of addicted to photography. In true Scottish fashion, it just started to rain outside. Not sure you can see the droplets on the windscreen. So we've come in, we're gonna take cover for a second, answer some more questions, and then it's lunchtime, and then we get to what's my new watch, or what's it going to be. Also whether I'll sell my Seamaster, which is a big topic actually. And also quite a lot of stuff about Rolex and why it's actually easier to get Rolexes now. It's quite an interesting topic. Doing Time Scotland says, films you'd think a different watch on the main characters would suit better. Oh, that's a really interesting one. Let's think of movies that I've seen recently. Actually, I've got a really good one. Okay, so in the movie The Wolf of Wall Street, Leonardo DiCaprio wears a Tag Heuer, and you can actually see it when he chucks it. He kind of says gold, and I'm not gonna say the swear word because I don't wanna get demonetized, but he says gold watch, and then he chucks this watch. And it's a Tag Heuer. Now, in real life, it would have been a gold Rolex. So I think if you're remaining true to history, that should have been a gold Rolex. But at that point, Leonardo DiCaprio was actually sponsored. He was an ambassador for Tag Heuer. Now, obviously that's now changed and he's now Rolex, but at that point he was Tag Heuer. So he couldn't wear a Rolex, but everybody else in the movie wears Rolexes. So yeah, I think that's probably, if you want to remain true to like what actually happened in history. I mean, that's like filming an Apollo movie and putting a Rolex Daytona on instead of an Omega Speedmaster. It just doesn't, like, I mean, they serve the same function, but it doesn't make kind of historical sense. Paolo Percilini says, will you ever create a YouTube channel section dedicated to helping others improve their photography and giving tips and tricks? Yeah, I mean, as I discussed, I think I said this a little bit earlier, but I'm in two minds, honestly, guys, as to whether I should put these tips and tricks and all that kind of stuff on this channel or have a totally separate channel. I'll leave it up to you guys. Like, what would you want to see? Okay guys, we've arrived in Loch Lomond. My original plan was to film in Glencoe by the big main mountain in Glencoe, but we had a little bit of issues. We incurred some issues with the clouds, so we're going to do it from Loch Lomond, which is just before Glencoe. It's about an hour outside of Glasgow, and I mean, it's just gorgeous. Okay, so Jur Pablo says, what do you think about Blancpain watches and should they be more widely recognised? Yes, I absolutely think Blancpain should be more widely recognised and talked about more. So they're the oldest watch brand in the world. They've got an insane amount of history. The 50 Fathoms actually set the tone, it set the benchmark for all diving watches to come. But I do feel that what we're missing is a more accessible size. With that said, I actually went to Namibia quite recently. It was an insane trip. Being in a desert with watches was so cool. But we had the new 38mm Blancpain 50 Fathoms watches, and I have to say, they were incredible. Now, nothing's perfect, especially when it comes to like man-made stuff, handcrafted stuff. But I think this makes the 50 Fathoms and actually the Blancpain range in general just that little bit more accessible to us small wrist gang. Eric Luca says, favourite adventure watch? I would say either the Seamaster 300 meters, the Hamilton Khaki Field, or the Hamilton Khaki Field Expedition. To me, that's watches that are in my collection. I mean, if you want to go out with my collection, stuff like the Rolex Explorer 2, absolutely banging. You've got tons of watches, military-inspired watches across the board. But in my collection, those are the ones. Emon Cullen, 1878, says Longines Conquest 38mm or CW12 38mm in terms of value. I would say the Longines Conquest. Although Christopher Ward are doing incredible things, I just feel like the Conquest's just a little bit more quality, it's just a little bit more premium, and it feels a little bit better. With that said, Christopher Wards are making huge moves forward, and I'm sure that will come. It's just that Longines are like hundreds of years ahead of them in terms of history. G. Steves 93, with prices going insane, what second-hand retailer do you recommend? Okay, so let's talk about this in the more general sense. At the moment, Rolexes are much more easy to get a hold of, and I actually had the question somewhere along the lines of why that is. And essentially why that is because there was this huge boom over COVID. Everyone had expendable cash, expendable income that they weren't using. I mean, they weren't going on holiday, they weren't going on dinners and fancy dates because they just, it was COVID. So they just had the money to sit on, and thus they put it into watches. And that spikes the entire market. Now what's happening is everything's settling down. But if you really dig into the figures, you can see that it's not settled down as much as people would think. I mean, let's say you've got this huge spike, okay? And it goes up to here. It was originally there. Then what happened is it's dipped over when we came out of lockdown, but it's still above where we were initially. So although there has been a dip, it was gonna happen. And that's partially why I feel at the moment Rolex watches are a lot easier to get a hold of because the demand that they once had isn't as high. The demand's still very high, don't get me wrong, but it's not as high, so they have loads of stock. So I think at the moment they're just a little bit easier to get hold of. Yash JPB says, your favorite watch content creators. I honestly, listen, firstly, I love all watch content creators. I think that they're doing awesome things and they're awesome people, Adrian, Britt, whoever you want to talk about. But I try not to watch them, if I'm perfectly honest, and the reason being is that I don't want to emulate or kind of recycle their videos. I want to come up with my own original ideas, and it's very easy to get swept away with the hype if you do start going down the lines of watching these videos. So I try to keep it a bit more original. I try to do my own thing, put my own spin on videos. For example, filming out and about in Scotland is one thing that I do. So yeah, there's tons of brilliant creators, but I try not to watch them. Alan Curry says Hamilton Khaki Expedition or Seiko Alpinist. Hamilton Khaki Expedition. Hockey Lax Life 04 says Blancpain 58 or 54. If you're only picking one, I would say 58, but that's because I have slightly bigger wrists. Well, I don't have big wrists, but they're 6.5 inches. I just feel the 58 wears better on my wrists. Private Passy, thought that said something totally different there, said, favorite spot on earth you've been to and two want to visit. Oh God. I'm extremely lucky that I've traveled a lot of places. I love Iceland. I go back to Iceland all the time. I loved Namibia. I loved Sulawesi in Indonesia. It's a bit more rogue. But honestly, the place that as I get older, I recognize more that I maybe overlooked it, and it's one of the most beautiful places on earth, has to be Scotland. It's where we are right now. James Adam 8425, if someone buys a Rolex but doesn't tell anyone, did they actually buy it? No, they didn't. Brett the Jones V71 says, what features or design features make a watch timeless? That's a great question. I think as soon as you start overcomplicating something, it loses its timeless nature. I think as soon as you start feeding into trends, those trends aren't going to be timeless. I think things like the Tudor Ranger, the new Tudor Ranger, or the Rolex Explorer, or the Omega Seamaster, or Jaeger-LeCoultre Reverso, these watches are all watches that they haven't changed and they remain relatively similar to the original. And I think that's kind of what makes them timeless. I think it's a degree of simplicity, but also a bunch of history. Ringo 101, if you could create your own watch, what would it look like? Who would build it? And by the way, after watching the video about the new Certina DS Action Diver, this watch will probably be my next. Thanks for a great video. Well, thank you very much, I appreciate it, mate. That was we filmed that in the Maldives with that watch. It was incredible, the watch is insane. But it was a really hard video to film because I was eaten alive by mozzies. Actually, it was the worst bites I've ever had in my life. I'll put some photos up on the screen at the moment, just so you guys know the pain sometimes I go through to get these videos, but I love it. So if I was to do a watch, it would be something simple. It would feed into my nature as a photographer, videographer, as being outdoors. It would be something, I think, similar-esque to a field watch, to a khaki field / Tudor Ranger / Rolex Explorer kind of vibe. It would be very simple, very stripped back. Who would I want to make it? Oh, Tudor, I think. I think I'd love Tudor or Omega. Omega or Tudor. Tinks7289 says, do you think things are changing with the Rolex ADs? I get the feeling they've opened the tap a little. Yeah, as I was saying before, I kind of answered this question already. Since COVID, I think the tap has definitely opened just that little bit. I wouldn't say demand's down because it's absolutely not. I mean, if you look into the facts and figures, it's still, on the increase, but it's definitely dipped from COVID, hence the taps being open a little bit. And Henny says, if I vacation in Scotland, do you recommend seeing and doing any musts? I would recommend Glencoe. I would absolutely recommend Skye. I'd recommend the Isle of Lewis and the Isle of Harris. I'd recommend going all the way up north to the likes of Wick and the suburbs of Scotland. Yeah, anything further north is a little bit more remote and a lot more me. It speaks to me personally, and I think it's really stunning. If you want more of a city break, Edinburgh's the place to go. JV9619 says, do you think the watch market is getting oversaturated with releases or social media influencers, or do you think it's over a good thing? The watch influencer space is definitely more crowded. There's definitely a lot more people in it than when I started, but I think what some people get wrong, and not all people, is there's only one of you. If you're a watch influencer and you're trying to emulate someone else, you're never going to be as good as them because you're trying to emulate them. If you are just yourself, unapologetically, then hopefully people will like you and then follow along. So I think that it's a good thing to have competition within a space. I don't see it as competition, I just kind of do my own thing, but yeah, I think people can kind of learn from that. They should try not to emulate people. They should try and do their own thing, have their own spin on things. And as for watch releases, I think it's been the same way as it's always been. I think Christopher Ward are maybe releasing too many watches, if I'm perfectly honest. Love them as a brand, as I said earlier, but they're releasing a lot of watches at the moment. But yeah, it's kind of the same as it's always been. I wouldn't say anyone's releasing more than usual, unless it's like an anniversary. Like we saw the new Seamaster Planet Oceans, but that's because it's the 20th anniversary. So there's gonna be new Seamaster Planet Oceans. So yeah, I wouldn't say so. Would I ever sell my white Seamaster, says Lee Tor Merider. This is an interesting one. It's one that I've discussed a lot. Honestly, no. I've thought about this a lot since the last Q&A video I did because I was really considering it. I wanted to make way for more purchases and it was silly because I literally, it's my everyday watch every day. But yeah, no, I just have too much of a sentimental connection with this watch and it means a lot more to me than just the watch. It's the relationship with my dad. It's the relationship to you guys, to the watch community. It's one of the first watches that really got me into watches. And every single adventure almost that I've been on, it always comes along. And it's perfect. I've never had it serviced, I've never had anything done to it. I've maybe changed the strap a couple of times, but it's amazing. Would you recommend the new June White as a daily driver or the Tudor Pelagos 39? So that's the new Ranger June White. I think as a daily beater, I would go with the Ranger. I think if you're going a little bit more specialist, the Pelagos is incredible. I love the Pelagos. But there's something about the Ranger, the stripped back nature of it. And we'll move on to that in a second. Yeah, there's more on that. Nesque Dave says, expecting an SMP redesign after the Planet Ocean. Yes, I think I am. I actually mentioned this a bit earlier, but I don't know if they'll get rid of the helium escape valve, but I do think they'll shrink down the sizes. I think they'll really reduce that size. And I think now that the Planet Ocean's out the way, that'll be the next one on their hit list. I mean, they've gone through the Aquaterra, they've gone through the Speedmaster, they've gone through the Planet Ocean. It needs to be the Seamaster now, the 300 meter. Reco Horologico says, we need another video like that that in Iceland. Need more like that, mate. Cheers, Rocco. Yeah, absolutely, mate. Thank you, firstly. That's really kind of you. You know, the outdoor videos are where I thrive and where I get my buzz, and I love doing them. So I'll try and do as many as I can for you guys. And you know, they aren't easy to film. They're not easy to edit. There's actually one coming up very soon. It might be released by the time you see this, but there's one coming up very soon that I did with a cool watch brand, and that was cool, up in Harris and Lewis. And so yeah, we will continue to get bigger on that front. Big things are coming. Yeah, really big things are coming. G1BOV says, if CH could take on another watch brand, what would it be and why? Oh, if Chisholm Hunter were to have a... So yeah, subsequent to common beliefs, I actually talk about loads of watches that Chisholm Hunter don't stock. There seems to be a thing amongst watch creators that as soon as they talk about a brand, people presume that they're selling it. And that's really not the case. I mean, Chisholm Hunter don't stock Christopher Ward, we don't stock Cartier, we don't stock Rolex, we don't stock Hublot. You know, there's tons of brands that Chisholm Hunter just don't stock. You know, I'm not trying to sell, I'm just kind of like talking about watches. I think if we were to stock another brand just out of interest, and they've really piqued my interest recently, it'd have to be Cartier. I love what they're doing with the Santos. I really do. And it's, especially in titanium, oh, that watch is so sexy. Diamonds Dog 89, what do you think of the new Planet Oceans from Omega? I think they are absolutely unbelievable. I really love them. Because the Planet Oceans were typically bigger, the helium escape valve made them look even bigger than they were. And they were already a chunky watch. But now that they've got rid of that and all the other refinements they've made to the bracelet, the case, more angular lugs, all that kind of stuff, oh, I love it. I really, really do. I think they really smacked this one out of the park. I've held off doing a video on it for now because I want to get them in. I'm really excited to get them in, but yeah, I love them. And now we get to the question of the hour from Ralva92. What's your next watch? Well, interesting you'd ask. So, I've been contemplating for a very long time, and you guys will know this, the Black Bay Opaline dial. I really have. But there's a lot of pros and cons, right? The Black Bay Opaline dial is 14.7 mil thick. The Tudor Ranger is 11 or 12 mil thick, depending if I get 36 or the 39. And I think for my style of living, it makes more sense getting the Ranger. But aside to that, the GMT functionality on the Black Bay Pro is something that I really, really like and would really enjoy. Yeah, I honestly don't know. I think, to be perfectly honest, I'm siding with the Ranger. And on that note, guys, thank you so much for so many incredible questions. If you want to get involved in the next one, fire onto our Instagram at Chisholm Hunter Watches, and you can ask them there. And I try and answer as many as I can. If I didn't get to yours this time, I do apologize. I'll try to get to them next time. I really appreciate all of you guys, seriously, for sticking around, supporting, and following along on my journey. You know, it's been 3 years now. It's kind of wild. So thank you guys so much. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this little bit of Scotland. I'm gonna not go for a swim, it's far too cold. I probably would have had trunks, but I'm gonna go chill. I'm gonna turn this way and chill for a bit.